Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamerspro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. So this is a topic that I wanted to get to yesterday, but had a bunch of things that I was doing. So I said, okay, let's touch on it today. Mitch, who works with us, sent it over to me today. I was like, okay, let me just think about it, and then we'll touch on it. Now, I saw a lot of people reacting to this story last night, so I said, okay, today this would be something interesting to talk about. So as you guys know, Bronny James, LeBron's first son, has been making a lot of news because he has aspirations of going to the NBA. That's number one. Number two, LeBron has made it crystal clear over the last year or two that one of his dreams is to be able to play at least one season with his eldest son, Bronny James, who his son is named after him, right? So that being the story, a lot of media outlets have been talking about the story, obviously, because it brings in a lot of views, a lot of clicks, a lot of revenue. So a bit of news dropped yesterday via Sham Charania. And apparently the news was centered on the fact that apparently 10 NBA teams requested to work out Bronny James, but in a head scratching turn of events, he declined all of the invitations with the exception of only two teams, and those teams reportedly being the Phoenix Suns and the Los Angeles Lakers. So we actually want to get into his report, want to play it for you because maybe some of you guys haven't heard it. So what we want to do now is want to play exactly what Sham had to say. I want you guys to listen to it, and then we're going to come back and react to his report. Take a listen to what he had to say here.
Yeah, Bronny James has over 10 workout invites during the pre-draft process, but I'm told he's only going to visit a couple of those, and that's going to include the Lakers and the Phoenix Suns. The Suns have the number 22 overall pick in the draft. He's under consideration there among, obviously, a lot of players at 22, but it's going to come down to the development plan. It's going to come down to guaranteed money. Whether it's late in the first round, in the second round, but the fact that there's only going to be a couple teams, 2-3 teams that Bronny James visits, and the Lakers and Suns, interestingly, are among the two teams.
So you heard what the report had to say. Now, I want to read some of the things that people had to say in response to this. One person says, let me just read some of the comments. Trying to go first round, I respect it. Another person said, a perfect example of the word privilege. Kid is not an NBA material, but will get drafted because of his daddy. Another person said, what 8 teams did he decline to work out for? Are they that desperate to get LeBron James? Another person said, what a joke. If he gets drafted and gets guaranteed money, every player he faces on the court is going to abuse him, especially the underrated two-way rookies who are going to be out for blood, mad because they better, but he's getting guaranteed money. Another person said, now every basketball fan knew the Lakers would invite him. That's not news. So that's what some people had to say about that report. What are my thoughts? Well, my thoughts are very simple, and I'm going to keep them concise and to the point. Look, I'm not sure what these teams are after beyond the fact that they may be trying to lure LeBron James. We actually put up a post on our channel asking the question about 30 minutes ago, where we said, should the Lakers consider drafting Bronny James? And out of the 1,000 people that have voted, 81% said no, 19% said yes. Now, I think the reason why those people are saying no is because if you're looking at the current state of affairs of the Los Angeles Lakers, it is clear that the Lakers need a different piece. They need players with more size and more length. 3-and-D players, and if you look at Bronny, although he's talented to a certain degree, he's a bit undersized for a guard. He's about 6'1", 6'2", and that would mean that most likely he would have to play the point guard position. And I'm not sure if the Lakers are out there in search of a 6'1", 6'2" guard. So if the Lakers were to ultimately draft him, then that means they will probably be doing it because of his father, LeBron James, which now brings us to a larger discussion, which is, does Bronny James want to get into the NBA because he wants to be his own person, or does he want to get in the NBA because he wants his dad to help him get in there? And it's interesting because if you listen to him a few weeks ago, or a week or two ago, he was talking about that he wants to pave his own way. He wants to be his own man, kind of create his own legacy and reputation for himself, but then turning out all those other teams just to focus on the Lakers and the Suns, that kind of seems to fly in the face of what you said. Right? If I want to be my own man, I want to go do my own thing. I want to be away from my dad. I want to go make a name for myself. I don't want to be under him and then having daddy hold my hand through the door and all of that and walk. Like, if you truly want to be your own person. I've seen players that have gotten certain things because of their dads, or at least that's been the implication. If you look at Austin Rivers and his dad, Doc Rivers, a lot of people have kind of gone to Doc Rivers, or you're in here because your dad, you only got this contract because of your dad. And no one wants that, especially if you're a guy watching the show and you have a dad that maybe has done well for himself in whatever field or whatever it is. Usually guys like that want to make a name for themselves. Now, there's some guys that are eager to just jump onto the daddy bandwagon because daddy got a lot of money and daddy gonna give me his money and I'm gonna ride the wave. But usually what happens is you seldom see a son that comes after his dad that is very, very, very successful be as successful as his father. It rarely happens. It rarely happens, because I personally believe that the circumstances that usually the father is raised in are harder than the circumstances the son is raised in, especially when it's the first time you're becoming wealthy, right? Whereas the son, you're growing in a totally more coddled environment, whereas the dad had to go through something totally different and had a different set of experiences. In the case of Bronny James, I'm not exactly sure what he wants to do in terms of him wanting to create his own legacy. We have to wait and see, but ultimately it's going to become evident based on the decisions that he makes. If I'm him, I don't know why I'd want to play with my dad, just because I would want to be my own person. You know what I'm saying? Just because I would want to be my own person, and I don't want anybody anywhere attributing my success to, oh, you only did it because of your dad. Like, what person, young man wants that? Again, some people do, but the vast majority of us don't. I'm a first son. My dad is very successful in business, and nobody's sitting up here talking about, like, I'm not sitting here, let me show you how I did it because of my dad. Nah, you don't get a kick off of that. Like, you don't get a kick. That's just the culture I come from as Igbos. We don't, Igbos, even if your dad is rich, you got to go out there and make your own way. You just have to, right? And that same thing with my dad. And it's just the thing. We're not sitting up here salivating. Now, there are some Igbos, like I know a very, very, very rich Igbo guy. I think he's the #1 aluminum supplier. I think in West Africa, all of Africa, very, very rich guy. And he has his son who's always showing off his dad's wealth on social media with Lamborghinis, Ferraris, flying private jets and all of that stuff. But his dad money. It's his dad's money. Now he's his first son. So according to the culture, a lot of his wealth is going to be bequeathed to his son, and his son is living it up. And he sees no problem with it. My thing is, if you're going to be flexing and spending like that, when you're posting on the gram or you posting on TikTok, just let it be known that's daddy's money. Don't run around with that look on your face like this is your money. You're just basically continuing daddy's empire. So don't walk around with that look on your face. That's daddy's money. There ain't nothing wrong with it, but you are quite different from those of us who's going out here and getting it on our own. And there's a fundamental difference. And I would rather be in that group. I don't want to be the guy that, oh, you only got this because of your dad. I would rather be worth $2 million than know I did it on my own, than to be worth 10 or 20 and everybody can look at you, oh, you only got that because of your dad. Out of here. I don't want that. So yesterday there was a very big game in the NBA that I did not watch. Yesterday, I had one of the most hectic days that I've had in a very long time. And then my wife and I, we get to the hotel with the babysitter, and we're like, okay, you know what? We've had a crazy day. Let's just go downstairs and have some dinner together, right? And we tell the baby, like, just call us and let us know if the baby starts crying, right? We get downstairs. It's a 4-month-year-old. We get downstairs. We just sat down. We started eating. My wife goes, she just called me. I'm like, okay, let's see. She picks up the phone and she's like, she's crying. Talking about her daughter. I'm like, okay, I think we need to hurry up and go upstairs. Good. 2-3 minutes later, 5 minutes later, she calls again. She just drops all her food. We have to go. I'm like, all right, let's go. She drops all the food. I get out of the elevator. I'm trying to pay for the food. She goes upstairs. I get out of the elevator and I could hear my daughter crying through the door, like the hallway. I was like, Jesus Lord. We walk up in the room and I go up to see her and she's looking at me like, if she could talk, if that little girl could talk, she looked like she was going to say, where the hell did you people leave me that you abandoned me? So I was dealing with that, was pissed off. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to stay up to watch the game because the game is coming on at 1:30 a.m. my time. And it was like 11:30. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch some Netflix until the game. And I was like, yo, I cannot do it. I am going to sleep right now. I am tired. So I completely missed the game. I wake up in the morning to see what happened, and then of course I see that the Minnesota Timberwolves ended up staying alive, right? And apparently the box score was the Wolves ended up winning 105-100, and I saw some of the highlights, and Karl Anthony Towns was really the man of the night. And then, of course, Anthony Edwards, he had a bounce-back game. He scored 29 points. He hit with 10 rebounds, 1 assist. He did have 1 block, and I think he shot, what did he shoot from the floor? 10 rebounds, 9 assists on 44% shooting from the field. He made 2 out of his 5 3-point shots. So he had a bounce-back game. And really, we want to get into, number one, what happened in that game based on the highlights that I saw, and also where I think this series is going. So let me just give you guys some of my thoughts. First of all, I was actually expecting the Dallas Mavericks to close out this series at home because, number one, they had so much momentum on their side. But it doesn't surprise me that they ended up losing the game. Why? Because the Minnesota Timberwolves have played the Mavs very, very close all throughout this series, right? One dribble here, the other one call this way, the other call that way, they win. Like if you look at game 2, when Kyrie Irving, they had the turnover, but then he fouled him and then the ball went out of his hand. That play goes another way. Maybe we have a different outcome, right? The game before that, it went down to the wire virtually. And then, of course, you had this game, which was basically closed out. And I mean, the game was decided within the last minute and a half or 2 minutes of that game. And that game was essentially decided. So it doesn't surprise me. Now, I saw a post. ESPN is something else. Going into this game, they were like, is it over? It's over and all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden, the Wolves win one game. Is this bad signs? Is this a bad sign for the Dallas? I'm like, really? One game, all of a sudden, we want to talk about bad signs and all of that. So, of course, that's how those guys are going to react. I want to get a little bit more into the box score. If you look at the big guns for the Dallas Mavericks, Kyrie Irving had a horrendous shooting night. He shot 33% from the field, scoring 16 points. And Luka Doncic, although he had 28 points, it took him 21 shots to do so, and he only shot 33% in that game. PJ Washington, he didn't shoot well. He only shot 23%. So if you look at the Dallas Mavericks overall as a team, they didn't shoot very well. And whenever you have poor performances like that, shooting from the floor, chances are you're going to lose that game. And essentially that's what we saw there. Karl Anthony Towns, he was big. He was basically the GOAT of this series so far, not the greatest of all time, like the literal GOAT. Everybody's been roasting him for how poorly he's been playing, and I think he's a difference. He was a difference maker, at least for the Minnesota Timberwolves, having such a big performance when they needed it from their second best player. Obviously, Anthony Edwards had a good game. He stepped up and he delivered for them. And obviously, with every single win, he's going to try to infuse some level of confidence within his group, as he should. Right, as he should. We did get on him after his crazy comments talking about this team can't beat us after they had beaten them 3 straight games. So where do I see this series going? Well, now they're going to be shifting back to Minnesota. What do I think? I think the Dallas Mavericks have a good opportunity to go in there in game 5 and win. Now, some of you may say, but why? Well, I'm not going to bank on the fact that both Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving are going to shoot 33% from the field. I'm just not going to bank on that. Number one. Number two, I also believe that given the fact that they had already won 2 games there, it wouldn't surprise me that they go out there and win. Now, Minnesota is a very interesting team because they can get hot at any moment. They're a very confident team. Their role players play better at home. Naz Reid is going to play well. I expect Anthony Edwards to play a little bit better. I expect Karl Anthony Towns to play better. But ultimately, I think that this series can either go 5 or 6 games. I don't see a scenario in which it goes 7 games. If it goes 7 games, I'll be really, really surprised by that. But I definitely foresee a bounce back performance from Luka Doncic and those guys. And I think some of those role players may play better on the road. But obviously, we have to see how all of those things kind of pan out. But nevertheless, it was a fantastic win. They stayed alive. They didn't get swept. And if they had gotten swept, it would be the first time in NBA history that 2 teams on their way to their respective, becoming conference champions would have swept both series. Because remember, the Boston Celtics did that, and then now they had an opportunity to do that. Some people have asked, just to touch on the Boston Celtics for a second, some people have asked, why don't you talk about the Celtics? A few reasons. Number one, I don't think it's something that our audience is particularly interested in. That's number one. We tried in the past, didn't really gain any traction doing that. Number two, they're not a team that really interests me much. And number three, I don't feel like they've played really great teams on their way to the championship run. That I could be wrong, but I just always traditionally found Western Conference series to be much more entertaining to watch and to cover. As you guys know, Draymond Green had a pretty explosive sit down on Shaquille O'Neal's Big Shaq podcast where they argued Lakers versus Warriors, Kobe's place is the GOAT, and all of this stuff. But then there was a specific part in that conversation where they started talking about, get this, they started talking about Draymond Green's relationship with referees and always being fined. And then in the midst of Draymond Green explaining himself, he then goes into this thing where it's not, he basically saying you're not set up as an NBA player to be rich or wealthy, whatever it is, after you retire, which left the vast majority of us saying, what in the hell is Draymond Green talking about when he's part of the 1% of earners in the 1% of all earners in the world, and he's up here talking about the NBA, one of the most lucrative jobs you could have in the world, doesn't set you up for wealth after the NBA. So those are the comments we want to get into now. Those are for those of you who didn't hear it. We want to quickly play what Draymond Green had to say as a refresher so it can give some context to what is it, Marcellus Wiley is going to say. So take a listen to Draymond Green explain his position here.
And we're in Boston. And so it's closer to New York. They come meet with our team in Boston. And the lady that's over the PA Foundation says, "Woo, Draymond, I love you because you always sending us money." Whoa. You're supposed to be fighting for my money back. You sitting here telling me you love me because I get fined and I always send y'all money. I'm supposed to be confident in you fighting for my money back. I've been done ever since. And so, you look at, like any other charitable donation, it went here, it went there. We never know where this money goes.
Never.
I don't understand it. So I'm never in favor of guys getting suspended. The fines to me don't make sense. When you talk about as hard as we work to accumulate wealth, coming from situations that most people never make it out, and then you get fined the way we get fined, it's actually not set up for us to be wealthy after we're done playing. This job is not set up the way we're taxed.
Oh, California?
The way we're taxed, the way we're fined, the things that's this job ain't never been set up for us to be wealthy after we're done playing. And you hear about all these programs like this program, this program, that is to cover everybody. This program is to teach this guy this. But if I do something wrong, I lose $100,000. Man, it took my mom 4 years when I was growing up to make $100,000. And I lose that in the night because what? The fines are, the referee got mad at me. And he didn't like what I said to him. So I lose $5,000 like that, on a tech, And so I think I don't understand the marker. And back to your Jamal Murray question, I think it was absolutely insane that you get a $100,000 fine, no suspension, no nothing, or throwing a heating pack at an official.
Yeah.
Man, I throw a word at an official, they throw me under the jail. You throw a heating pack at an official?
So you heard what Draymond Green had to say. So as I was listening to Marcellus Wiley, he was actually breaking down what Draymond said, and he just totally dismantled Draymond's argument piece by piece as to why what he was saying was just totally ridiculous to all of us out here. So take a listen to what Marcellus Wiley had to say in response to what Draymond Green had to say on the big podcast. Take a listen to that there.
I thought it was profound at first what he said. I think the general conversation is, how much does the league really care about your overall wealth and health? That's a good conversation. And then Draymond got into taxes, fines, and just the spirit of that's what y'all doing. Y'all don't really care. Now that sounded like a lack of accountability. Let's just be real. No matter what job you have, if it's high paying and you live in this country, depending on what state, you're getting taxed. There's a federal tax, and then there's state income taxes based on which state. Some states don't have it, right? So to blame the league for the fact that everybody in this country gets taxed, and then certain states gets taxed more than others, let's just say that's not it. That's not it. So you strike one against Draymond versus the league. All right, the fines. Interesting. Now, the degree of the fine, which goes to charity, but still, you're taking my money to give to a charity that, let's just say I got my own foundation. I don't want to give them that charity. And to that degree, right? $100,000 because you argued against the ref. Well, let's explain why they do that. $100,000 is one, you arguing against the ref compromises our integrity of the game in perception more than anything. Oh, everybody over there and everyone over there just, what they say, the inmates running an asylum or some crazy stuff like that. Crazy stuff, inmates. Remember you got in trouble for saying that? Not me. So then you're like, oh, look, who's really running this? Who's really governing this? Look at them. The players can do whatever and say whatever. And be real, if I saw players just killing refs, it would make me look at the refs in the game differently. So they do a good job with that. Maybe not to that degree, but they do a good job. Another thing that they do is when the players have misconduct, right? Because of their influence on the masses, especially the youth. They don't let the players act so crazy because it looks a certain way. And let's just say, every 8-year-old game I go to now, when they make a three-pointer, I'm like, MJ starting to do this, the little, and you want them to be a kid because that's what the kids are doing. One three-pointer, you got ice in your veins. It's the first quarter.
So you heard what Marcellus Wiley had to say. For those of you who didn't hear my original thoughts on that topic, let me just go through them again. I think everything Draymond Green was saying was ass backwards. I don't understand what Draymond Green was talking about in any view. The fact that Draymond Green could refer to the NBA as an entity that is working against athletes is just one of the most ridiculous things anybody anywhere can say. You play in a league where you are part of the top earners in the United States, which means you're one of the top earners in the world. You're earning millions of dollars per annum in the case of Draymond Green, who's earning about $25 million per annum. And because you cannot control your behavior as an NBA player and as a grown professional adult by choking players, kicking them in the private parts, stomping on them like Kirk Franklin, all kind of crazy stuff, and the NBA fines you for your ridiculous antics, you then say that the NBA is working against your interest in terms of becoming wealthy after you retire. So what about all the other money they didn't fine you for? All the other money you earned? That doesn't set you up for wealth after you retire? I'm lost. I don't understand what you're talking about. What am I not understanding here? What am I not getting? He talked about the way California attacked. Who told you to go stay in California? Who's forcing you to stay in California? No one. Like, no one. Yeah, you may play there as a player, but you don't have to make that your permanent residence, do you? The fact of the matter is a lot of people that are rich don't want to live in LA just because it is beautiful, but in California, but it's expensive as hell. People are moving to Florida. People are moving to Texas. People are moving to Seattle, wherever the hell it is you're moving to. But Draymond Green just sounds like he's whining and he's blaming somebody else for his own actions. The NBA doesn't want us. And who is this us? Who are this us? Can you give us some names? Who are you referring to as the us? Almost all NBA players are millionaires. Almost all of them. So who is the us you are referring to? Who? I really don't understand what Draymond be talking about some of these days, most days, man. He up there complaining. Unreal.